Well, the crowds sure are loving the hot rods here at the Pebble Beach Concours, and there's another fascinating story in this class. Jim Govro started building his hot rod when he was 15 years old. This is affectionately known as the Tweety Bird. In the 1950s, guys from Southern California started hopping up and chopping down Model Ts, A's, and V8 Fords, and hot rod magazines started showing up on coffee tables around the country. But there was no car that made more of an impact than this hot rod right here. It was so popular, even the cool kids wanted to copy it. Alex, you'll leave the starting line at a track that you picked up your first career win. What is that like for you? Welcome to the Southern Nationals here in Atlanta, Georgia for the 7th stop on the NHRA season. Amanda Busick hanging out with my good friend Brian Lowe. Well, Brian, it's been quite the weekend for us here in Atlanta. We've been celebrating the women of power in drag racing, and you can't start that conversation without honoring the First Lady of drag racing, Shirley Muldowney. What has been her legacy on the sport? For Richie Crampton's performance in Reading, he jumped from the 9th spot in points up to the 5th spot. Why might you be a dark horse candidate in this countdown? Tommy Johnson Jr. almost fell to his knees when he came out of his car and said, "I can breathe again." With the pressure of now and the show off of you, what will you focus on in Q5? Robert Hight led the funny car points for 18 races this season. And Robert, aside from regaining the lead, what's your focus here today?
Well, it's really regaining the lead. We need to win this race. The way the ladder worked out, Jack Beckman and John Force are on the same side as me. So if I get to the final, we got the points lead, but we really need to pad it and get a win.
Robert Hight's teammate John Force won the U.S. Nationals. He ended up in the finals last weekend in Reading. He is the #1 qualifier here this weekend. And John, when you think about your performance of late, how early is too early to talk championship? Lee, you had some struggles in qualifying here this weekend. How refreshing is a run like that for your team?
Oh my gosh.
Greg and Erica had us all holding our breaths when they were at the starting line. But when you're on the right side of a win on a staging battle, how satisfying is that?
It's definitely satisfying.
Well, Brian, as you say that John Force is seeking his 150th win still, this is a track that has been very good to John Force. Why is today that day?
The long and winding road.
In his young career, this is the first season that Alex Laughlin has qualified for the countdown. You're racing at Indy for the 5th time. When you think about the prestige of this race, how important is it to drivers to win here?
Let me tell you what, that's a great question because it was either Friday or Saturday. I'm sitting up there on the starting line, I'm belted in, I'm looking around all the people in the stands, I'm thinking like, man, 5 years ago, I never would have thought I'd be here racing pro stock.
Tim, you think of all the manpower that went into getting your car back to competition ready. What are you most proud of?
Well, just everybody.
Bill Orsham just said, nice job to his team. Hopped out of his funny car and said, that's rad. And you said a lot of work went into this run. What did you mean by that?
It did.
John-Eric Byrne could be the first champion to defend his title here this weekend. And Jeff, how do you keep that off your mind and on the race at hand? The Andretti surname is American Motorsports royalty. And Michael, you've been a part of this series since its inception. Why is it important to you to put your family stamp on it? The celebration is still happening over here in Audi, and Alan McNish, his first year as team principal, gets it done. You came into the weekend 33 points back. At what moment did you know that there was going to be a fighting chance for your group? Steve, it's been a difficult couple of months since your crash in Charlotte. By all accounts, you may not even have qualified for this race. You were holding the Wally of the U.S. Nationals. When you look back at this Wally, what will come to mind?
Woo, the struggle.
Really? You're now playing, you pay.
Well, we just heard from Mama Kay and Steve Torrance. Your son was at the bottom of the Capco pile. You put on your first yellow Top Fuel winter hat, your event medal. Billy, you are a drag racer throughout your career in all of sportsman classes. Now you get to hold a Top Fuel Wally. What will you remember about this day?
Well, I'll remember trying not to cry while you're interviewing me for the first thing.
JR, 4 years ago, you were afraid that you may never drive again. You will forever be an NHRA world champion. How will you remember this moment?
This is what you live your whole life for.
And Steve, in your own words, you annihilated this countdown. You are standing in front of a trophy that cancer can't take from you, that a heart attack can't take from you.
Here you go with that Barbara Walters
that
stuff.
No other competitor can take from you. How will this personal accomplishment define your life?
This is a lifelong goal right here.
Welcome back to NHRA in 30. A small town outside of Memphis is central to the story of our next guest. Drummond's, Tennessee is where he would fall in love with drag racing, where he would meet and marry his high school sweetheart. and unfortunately, where he would face an unspeakable loss. In search of his first NHRA win, it would be a story for the ages that would be shared between father and son.
What do you think Jason would say to you today?
He said, "Dad, you did a great job."
The world knows Kendrick Castillo as a hero.
Yeah.
How do you want your son remembered?
Well, after long thinking, I do want him remembered as a hero.
As you said, enemies on the track, husband and wife, teammates. Could it work any other way for you?
Probably not. I couldn't do it all without her.